All right, y'all. We here another lovely episode of No Pump Fakes. Mom is laughing at my lovely yellow hoodie. That's all good though. We move regardless. But yeah, bro. There's a very good. You said we here.
We here. We're here.
Yeah. But yeah, man. So there's a very good basketball team out there that I think we should start this episode off with. A team that I think a lot of people didn't think. What?
It's crazy. The team you about to say is. I had a. I'll save it for the cap or no cap later.
I don't think you know who I'm finna say.
Yes, I do. Because you're not talking about a team. Are you talking about a team in the East? Not the West, right?
The East, yeah, the East.
Yes, I know what team.
The Washington Wizards. The Washington Wizards.
I know what team you about to say.
The Washington Wizards.
I know what team he's about to say.
The Washington Wizards, one of the top teams in the East right now. What are your thoughts on the Washington Wizards, bro?
Playing very, very well. Got a new coach. Wes is doing an excellent job making sure that not all the pressure is on Bradley Beal. I think for the past few seasons we saw that Bradley Beal had to do so much. Now they got Spencer Dinwiddie. Then they got Montrezl Harrell coming off the bench looking like a 6th Man of the Year candidate. And they're playing well. I think we have to give the Washington Wizards definitely their credit so far early on the season.
You can say Kyle Kuzma's name too if you want.
Yeah, Kyle Kuzma is doing, he's playing all right. It's like he's excelling at his role. I think we've come to realize, early on this season, I said it in the offseason, I was just like, I'm going to be watching Kyle Kuzma. I'll watch him this year. I've been watching him this year. It's just, he's a role player. And that's what he is in the NBA.
Right, I mean, no wrong with
so
that.
He's a good role player. Some nights he can get you 20, some nights he can get you 10 to 12. Like, that's what he is. He's a role player at this point in his career. He's not shooting that high for them. I don't really care about stats or whatever, but like his field goal percentage is not that high. He's rebounding the ball very exceptional well, but it's just kind of like at this part of his career, he's a role player or he's a low-level starter. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, at this point, I think it's safe to say that the Wizards are going to make the playoffs, barring anything crazy. I know we had a previous episode all about the Wizards and that trade of, Russ to LA, but now it's kind of like, well, damn. Obviously happy for Brad. Are we still saying free Bradley Beal? Is that okay to say? Or I mean, they're winning games now, so is that still?
It's still. I mean, it's still early. I'll touch on this in the cap or no cap segment. But we'll see.
Okay,
that's all I got for the Wizards right now. We'll see.
That's all I got. Hey man, it's
we'll
okay.
see.
There's 30 teams in the National Basketball Association. We've talked a good amount of the top ones, pretty often. But I mean, look, anytime, the nation's capital and Bradley Beal is shining, I feel like it's necessary to at least mention them.
I think that was do you think it was so far early on, do you think that trade was one of the best trade backs for a superstar?
It definitely made the Wizards more balanced, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
I think previous roster, they were kind of top heavy, obviously, Russ and Brad, but now they have a little bit more options, a little bit more depth and opportunity. And they're playing well. So, I mean, it's, I can't say like who won or who lost the trade, but if a team is winning post-trade, then, I mean.
No, I'm not saying who lost it. I'm just saying, but sometimes we see like superstars get traded all the time, and it's kind of like it's not a great like balance for the returning team. Like we look at the New Orleans Pelicans. Everybody was saying like New Orleans Pelicans won the trade. They won the trade. No, they didn't. Anthony Davis won the championship his first year. Everybody's talking about like, the Spurs, they got DeMar DeRozan in return for Kawhi Leonard. True. Kawhi Leonard went to the Sixers and won a championship his first year. So it's just kind of like, and then the San Antonio Spurs haven't been in the playoffs since they required DeRozan. They're not going to the playoffs this year, and then they lost DeRozan. So it's just kind of like that trade wasn't
I
really
was
that
just
great.
going to ask you about that DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, the Spurs and Raptors, but the Bulls and kind of everything that they're doing right now. I mean, the Wizards obviously in the East, but also the Bulls in the East. So look, I'm just happy DeMar has kind of found a home where, being one of the better teams in a conference, I'm already looking forward to kind of seeing what they'll do come playoff time. But
yeah,
special, man.
Yeah, special. DeMar DeRozan, I said it's crazy. DeMar DeRozan is probably been the most underrated star player his entire career. Like people forget like his time with the Toronto Raptors, how special he was. If it wasn't for LeBron James, probably would have went to a finals, had a finals appearance. Like he was the leading honcho, head dog, alpha dog on a championship caliber team for years. It's just like he couldn't get over the hump because most teams in the East couldn't get over the hump because of LeBron James. It's just kind of like give this man the respect that he deserves. But what happened was he got traded. He didn't choose. He didn't want to go to San Antonio. He didn't have any choice. He got traded. And then people talked about his entire career. He's just a scorer. Then he went to the San Antonio Spurs and his game balanced out, improved his passing, improved his rebounding. He was averaging like 25 and 5 for 3 straight seasons with the San Antonio Spurs around those numbers. And it's just kind of like, then people say, oh, he's not an all-star because his numbers. So it's just kind of like, for whatever reason, it seems like DeMar DeRozan doesn't get the credit and the flowers he deserves. And I'm glad he's in a situation with the Chicago Bulls right now. And people are realizing like, yo, this guy is still a star. Like, he's still a stud. He's still him.
I feel like it's a Cali thing, low key. When I think about it, like DeMar, Russ, hell, even Harden, like just in terms of like guys that perform at a high level, but because they may not have a championship, people don't appreciate what they've done for the game. Especially DeMar.
Paul George.
Yeah, that's who it was. I knew it was somebody else. I was thinking Paul George too. Like, especially DeMar, because I feel like, with the midi being not as appreciated and perfected, you know what I'm saying, as highlighted, I'll say, as much as it should be, DeMar is still dominating at that level. And I think, something like that should definitely, we should all take note of that. And look, man, rooting for a lot of players, but DeMar is definitely one of those guys at the top of that list. Hopefully he get a championship. You think he's a Hall of Famer? I know he's going to get a statue in Toronto. That should be mandatory. You think DeMar DeRozan a Hall of Famer?
Man.
I feel like he needs a chip. I feel like he might need at least one to.
Probably so. Probably needs a chip. Like I said, he's one of the most underrated, probably been one of the most underrated superstars his entire career. Like, just that alone lets me know that you're probably right. He needs a chip. Like, he definitely needs a chip.
Yeah, I think it's like very similar to the Kyle Lowry thing. Like once Kyle Lowry got that championship, it kind of boosted his chances drastically to kind of get into the Hall of Fame. I think the same thing will happen with DeMar. And who knows? I mean, if he gets one in Chicago, that'll be special. I mean, again, it's still early. Don't get me wrong, but
of course.
I mean, if they're playing well, they're playing well.
Yeah.
They got the pieces.
You kind of touched a little bit about DeMar DeRozan in the midi. I kind of want to talk about the most important shot in basketball, the mid-range shot. It's kind of like people have forgotten about with the analytic ball and certain coaches telling you like, oh, like Mike D'Antoni's system. The mid-range has always historically been the most important shot in basketball. Having the ability to score at the second level on the basketball court kind of separates you from a star to a superstar, especially in the playoffs. The in-between game matters. The half-court game matters. So it's a reason why like you look at the past 14 NBA finals, 12 out of those 14 finals MVPs, they were deadly at the second zone of the basketball court. We're talking about Kawhi Leonard. We're talking about Kevin Durant, Dwayne Wade, Tony Parker, LeBron James. All those guys were deadly at the mid-range and deadly at the second zone of the basketball court. And I think with the new rule changes, we're seeing that, the guys that really excel scoring at the second zone of the basketball court are having success compared to some of the guys that are kind of struggling with the new rule changes because they don't really operate at that level as well as some of their counterparts.
Yeah. And I mean, the mid-range is not dead. I
alive and well.
Like, it is not dead, but I think people just fall in love like the highlights in terms of like, the dunks or like a crazy three. But like if you can master, and use the midi well, like you can kind of go far in this league. And I think guys specifically like, again, DeMar kind of, and Devin Booker comes to my mind too in terms of guys that just kind of kill it at that zone of the basketball court. But look, I understand why people kind of prefer to kind of see like, the flash and the deep threes and dunks and all that. But like at the same time, when you're a fan, right, of the game and you understand how pure it is, you also recognize that is a piece of it. And, I think we had an episode where we listed out guys who've kind of dominated the midi, haven't we?
Yeah. And we did have a was it? Yeah. Was it the best 3-level scorers? No, I don't think we did. I
There
don't
was
think we did.
definitely I feel like we had to because I remember we mentioned C.J. McCollum, Book, Kawhi, DeMar. Yeah, we definitely had to have.
Well, I guess best. Did we? I don't think so. I don't think we had 3-level scorers. I don't think we had a mid-range specialist.
We did have 3-level scorers. All right. So who else on this? We got Paul George.
Paul George. You got Kawhi Leonard. You got Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, C.J. McCollum.
Let me ask you something. Do you think that Steph Curry has one of the best middies in the game? Do you think that he's
when he chooses to use it? Because some guys don't choose to use it. Like James Harden, peak James Harden, not necessarily say peak James Harden, but like, well, kind of like when James Harden first came to OKC and when he was his first few years with the Houston Rockets, he was a peak 3-level scorer. Like he operated, especially OKC in them early, like he was really getting busy at the second zone of the basketball court. And then it's kind of like the game kind of shifted with the Golden State Warriors and their run and everybody started shooting threes and stuff like that. Them becoming the first perimeter team to ever win a championship, that kind of changed the NBA, the Steph Curry effect. So everybody starts going to like threes and layups only. But yeah, so I definitely was when Steph Curry uses it, he's unstoppable because his jump shot is so pure. But he doesn't use it like some of the other guys. It's like when Rashad Phillips came on and said, it's just kind of like we can't discredit guys for not necessarily like say they're not a 3-level scorer just because they take more threes than twos. But like Steph Curry's in between game, like the floaters, the midi, when he decides to use it, he's one of the best. But you wouldn't necessarily classify him though as a pure 3-level scorer like some of the other guys though. That's the only thing.
That's why actually I feel like on Slam like we might have done like a swipe through one time of like maybe, and I don't remember like the exact day or like the exact guys, but like obviously on IG you get 10, and then like is he a part of that 10? Like would you choose 10 other players that you feel maybe not necessarily have a better midi than him, but like you feel are like masters of that? You know what I'm saying? Like it's art. Like it's perfection when they do it. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean that Steph can't do
true.
It, but he doesn't like you said, he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to. Yeah, I mean, like I said, like you said, the mid-range is alive and well. It's always been alive and well. Like I said, the past 14 NBA Finals, only 2 players haven't really operated at that zone to win the Finals MVP and really dominating the playoffs using the mid-range. I think the list is Kevin Durant, Kawhi, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Tony Parker, Dirk Nowitzki, Kobe Bryant, Paul George, and some of those guys on there. Paul Pierce, yes, Paul Pierce, and for us in mid range, like some of those guys on there multiple times because they won multiple MVPs, like LeBron and KD and Kawhi. So it's just kind of like that just shows you that how beautiful the mid range is, how effective you got to be in that area on the zone on the basketball court to really have success, especially when it matters the most. Not the regular season and the playoffs and the NBA Finals. Are you getting boogie at all levels? Are you effective when the defenses are more tight? The defense is more close impact, making you put in pressure, actually playing defense compared to the regular season. Can you get down? Can you boogie? Can you operate? Those guys that I just mentioned, the Finals MVPs for the past 14 NBA Finals, 12 of those guys have really dominated at that zone.
I saw you make a post. I think you're like if Trey didn't get hurt, you feel that the Hawks could have made the Finals?
Yes, I did.
Why do you feel that way?
Did you watch that game against Milwaukee?
I did, but I'm asking you to explain yourself.
Did you see him? Did you watch Trey Young before in the playoffs against Milwaukee before he got hurt?
I don't know about it. I'm asking this question because there's a lot of people. No. I'm saying I'm asking this question about it because I think there's going to be a lot of people that feel like you're saying that to fuel your anti-Giannis agenda. So I'm just asking that question on behalf of the.
I don't have a first of all, I don't have a anti-Giannis agenda. I don't have an anti-Bucks agenda. I am a truth teller. I tell the truth, and people get uncomfortable by the truth. And when it comes to Trey Young, I think Trey Young is probably the most important engine in the NBA. I think for his impact, he's at the top. When you used to talk about players that you take off a team and the team would just fall to like be terrible, the Atlanta Hawks don't run without Trey Young. Like he's the engine. He makes the team go. Scoring wise, and also facilitating and playing rise. Like Rashad came out here and talked about like the whole dual forward with like LeBron, Luka, Giannis as well. Trae Young's a true point guard, but like he still has a responsibility of a dual forward because he has to do so much for that basketball team. He has to account for points. He has to account for assists and getting his teammates open looks and easy shots. Like it's crazy how much of an impact he has for the Atlanta Hawks. And like I said, if you take him off the Atlanta Hawks for his impact, it's not a lot of players that like you're probably taking over him that would probably see a team just fall off the clip over Trae Young. Like he's at the top.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, I think that the timing of this being said is kind of unfortunate, just considering like overall records and stuff. But I get
what about the Bucks overall record?
Well, I mean, we were talking about Trae, so that's why. It's only
I know I'm saying, but let's get into some. And Scott is gonna appreciate this. The lack of consistency when it comes to certain players, because sometimes people go unnoticed, sometimes teams go unnoticed compared to other players. Like people have been killing Anthony Davis. There's been a lot of Anthony Davis discord like over this season, right? People saying like he's not doing this, he's not doing that, and it's kind of like he's not this, he's not top 5, he's not a top 10 player. Like he's struggling. Like we want him to, he's shooting too many jump shots. He's doing all these different things. And I'd look around and it's just kind of like, and even his good games, people are still criticizing him because like, oh, he's taking too many jump shots. He needs to be finishing around the rim more. Like we know Anthony Davis is one of the best finishers around the rim, but what made him this unstoppable being in the NBA is his ability to take jump shots and his handle ability and play like a big guard. And once again, people are talking about the Lakers like they're under 5, they're 8-6. And I only say that because the team that you're talking about, the Milwaukee Bucks, nobody has talked about the Bucks' struggles. They're 6-8 right now. They just got annihilated by Trae Young. They got clipped by 30 plus by the Miami Heat. And it's just kind of like the discourse of like the certain teams are very, very different. And I wonder why is that?
Well, that's the price you pay when you decide to play with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Okay.
Straight up. I mean, if that's something that you want to use with being a media darling in terms of Giannis, how, you know.
I'm not even talking about Giannis. I'm just talking about like.
Well, I mean, you said the Bucks. When I hear Bucks,
okay.
I think of Giannis. When I hear the Lakers, I think of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. We can sit here and say it's a team thing, but the fact is, right? Even injuries aside, I think again that plays a huge part of it. Again, you know, you're on the Lakers, even though the Bucks are, you know, the reigning champs. People are going to have high expectations for you, and I think what it is too with LeBron being injured, if there's ever a time for Anthony Davis to prove that he really can be the number one option on a championship team, maybe it's now. Now again, I think AD can. I don't let regular season things kind of, you know, mess with my judgment too much. It's still the regular season. I want to see guys perform well in the playoffs, but I mean that might have something to do with it, right? Who you play for.
Yeah.
I mean that's what it is too. You know, AD kind of asked for a new situation. He got it, and so now it's like, all right, well, here's a chance.
But it's just kind of Anthony Davis has proven with the New Orleans Pelicans. Like he had a closeout game that was similar to Kobe Bryant. Like I think he had a 38 something in a closeout game that was comparable to Kobe Bryant. So it's just kind of like the team situation wasn't really there with the New Orleans Pelicans. But I'm just saying it's just kind of like I'm just using that as an example of like one team is 8-6 and everybody's talking about how bad Anthony Davis is playing and he's not this, he's not that. He's a champion. He's been one of the best players in the NBA. Like people are criticizing him like he's not stamped. He's stamped. It's just kind of like, and I just use that as a comparison because I don't really like making comparisons, but like I have to do it in order to get my point across. But you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they're 6-8. They're missing Chris Middleton. The Lakers are missing LeBron James. So it's not like one team is fully healthy and they're playing bad. Like it's the same thing, but nobody's talking about like the defending champs are struggling. And Giannis has been Giannis, but Giannis hasn't really been like he came into the preseason like hitting threes and stuff like that. That hasn't translated to the regular season. So it's just kind of like why is the like it's such a disconnect between like favoritism when it comes to like Anthony Davis, when it comes to Giannis. Now, a lot of that has to do with the Lakers. A lot of people hate the Lakers. You know that historically. And it's just kind of like also the Milwaukee Bucks is just kind of like Small market team. People are going to they love Giannis. Small market team just won a championship. Maybe that has something to do with it. But I had to bring it up because it confuses me.
Right, no, I'm with you.
The lack of consistency, Theus, it really confuses me.
I think my thing is, like, if we're going to mention Anthony Davis in the top 5, right, think about who the other top 5 guys might be, whoever it is that you have. Kevin Durant, LeBron, Kawhi, Steph, whoever, right? All of them, Giannis, right? All of those guys have won championships while they were the best player on their team at some point in their career. They've already done it, right? So even if you want to sit here and say that, whatever, they have literally shown us that they can be the number 1 option on the best team. Anthony Davis, even if you feel that he was the best player during that finals run, during the playoffs, whatever, he still had LeBron James. Like,
that's just that simple. But that's just a team.
No, I'm just saying though, if there's ever a time, if there was ever an opportunity for Anthony Davis to feel like or to prove that he can be the best player on one of the best teams in the entire conference, in the entire league, whatever, and it's not happening, maybe that's the reason why there's question marks. Now, I don't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel that way at all. Like I said, I don't let a couple of regular season games skew my judgment. But I'm just saying, if there was some sort of reason or blame behind it, maybe that's why. It's like, yo, you asked for this. LeBron James might be injured, but if we can't play this, we can't call you a top 5 player in the league and then see this. That's my only thing, or the question that people might ask.
Yeah, that's fine, but like I said, I can always go back to the lack of consistency, because I'll say that, and somebody on our production team, Scott, I love him to death, but like, we had a conversation after the podcast last week. We were talking about Steph and Curry. He was like, well, you constantly like on media darlings more so than other players. But it's just kind of like what you just said about Anthony Davis. We saw that for an entire season last year with Stephen Curry, and it was like the complete opposite. It was the love. He's top 3 MVP. He was this, he was that. So I'm just saying, it's just kind of like, it's never any consistency when it comes to certain players. That's all I'm saying. And that sucks, because like, I'm not saying Anthony Davis. I think Anthony Davis is, that 5 to 8 range is interchangeable at times for his like top 5 players in the NBA. Sometimes Anthony Davis may be in, sometimes he may not be in. Sometimes Luka Doncic can be in, sometimes he may not be in. So I think that's interchangeable. So I'm not really worried about the like top 5 thing, but the whole like, he hasn't won and been the alpha dog. Can he lead without LeBron James? I would say it's just kind of like he's done it before. Just like people would say, well, Stephen Curry's led his team to a playoffs, even though he didn't last year, but like he's done it before. So it's just kind of like, if we're going to use that metric, it has to be for everybody.
When has Anthony Davis done it though?
Led his team to a playoffs?
No, I'm talking about winning. Like, well, not just winning, going to the playoffs. I'm talking about like winning a finals or like winning something serious.
As what, the best player?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
He did it in the NBA bubble. He did it in the NBA. I keep telling people, like, people didn't watch. Like, he did it in, like, I get it. He had LeBron James, but that's his teammate. But I think people start confusing, like, things like, yo, just because he had LeBron, he was still, that entire postseason run, Anthony Davis was the best player.
I listen, like I said,
in the finals, Anthony Davis was the best player.
I get you. I understand. But at the end of the day, bro, if LeBron James is your teammate, you know that people in general would say, well, he had some sort of help. Now, I don't feel that takes away from Anthony Davis's greatness, but you're not about to sit here and just say, well, yeah, he had LeBron James. It's LeBron James. Like,
no one's not saying that, but I'm just saying it's just like the levels of like, we talking about like a legitimate argument can be made. Some people can make this argument. Like, Stephen Curry won the championship, right? And it's just kind of like, he didn't win. Some people feel like, oh, he didn't win finals MVP. I know that Steph Curry was the best player on those Warriors teams. That Warrior team that won the finals, even though he didn't win finals MVP, Andre Iguodala won. But some people are still going to say like, yo, he didn't win finals MVP, so he's not the best. I feel like that's kind of what they kind of doing with Anthony Davis in a way.
No, that is not at all, in no way, shape, or form. No. Like, there's not a single soul in the basketball community that does not believe that Stephen Curry was the best player on that 2015 team. No. Not
the best player. Maybe like his impact wasn't as great as
whatever word you want to use.
Wasn't as great as
impact,
Andre
value,
Iguodala.
best. No, nobody thinks that Steph Curry was not the best player on that team. No. That is not the same thing. The gap between, and I love Andre Iguodala, but the gap between Andre Iguodala and Stephen Curry versus Anthony Davis and LeBron James is not the same at all. No way, shape, or form. If you ask 100 people who was the best player on that Warriors team, I don't think anyone would say another name outside of Stephen Curry. Hell no. And I love Andre Iguodala, but that's not even No, that's not something I entertain. Now, if people want to play the card of like, oh, Steph Curry doesn't have a Finals MVP, so you want to use that against his legacy, all right, cool. I get it, whatever. But in terms of like who you really feel like deep down inside was better, come on, that's a waste of time. Like, you know damn well, bro, that Steph Curry was the best player in the world. Like, what are we doing?
I'm just saying, bro. People out there will use that. People have used that Finals MVP against Stephen Curry. That's all I'm saying. It's just kind of like the same thing with Anthony Davis. It's just like people talk like, well, he's not this. Can he leave without? Like, it's a regular season, and I bring that up because like I'll say the same thing about Stephen Curry last year, but he was like, oh my God, look at what he's doing. He was competing for the points per game against Bradley Beal. He like his team to make the playoffs. Like he was finished top 3 in the MVP voting, and it's just kind of like. That's what I'm saying. Like the consistency is never the same with certain players. Like Anthony Davis is having a great season so far. People act like Anthony Davis is just shitting it up. He's hooping. It's just like some games has been bad, some days has been great, some games has been just like, okay, that's Anthony Davis. He's doing what he needs to be done. But it's just kind of like the consistency is never there. And I'll point to another player. I'll let you follow up.
Let me say one last thing about Anthony Davis.
Go ahead.
Before, I think earlier on one episode, you mentioned that Anthony Davis could have a case to be made that he's the best player on the planet when healthy. Yeah. So if you're going to give him that type of respect, we have to hold him to that type of standard. We have to hold him to a high standard. To me, it's really that simple. I know what Anthony Davis is, but if we're going to sit here and say that you can be better than Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry, hey, I don't need a... I want it every game.
That's true, but I want everybody to be held to that same standard, that same consistency.
True.
That's all. Because I saw last year people were saying Stephen Curry was the best player in the world, and Kevin Durant and LeBron James was there, and it was just kind of like people still were saying like Stephen Curry's still the best player in the world. Look what he's doing. His team is not good. This and that, but people were still saying that. You get what I'm saying? It's just kind of like
people are just amazed. Like Steph is like a spectacle. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like a literal movie when you watch him play. So people are just like, oh my goodness, like this is crazy. And
I heard it with Giannis. I heard it with
Giannis
for 2 years too before he won his championship as well. Like people, it's just what I'm saying. It's just like, and Giannis, and I guess you could say like the argument would be the pushback about Anthony Davis is just kind of like most of the times those guys bring it every night. So that's probably like your reason and most people's reason why they say the things about Anthony Davis. It's just kind of like, I will say, being a realistic, truth teller, it is some nights where Anthony Davis is like, yo, if he does this every night, like he can be the best player in the world. So I guess that's probably the reason. That's probably the reason.
That's something you say like about an NBA draft prospect, right? That's something you say about like a high schooler. You know what I'm saying? Like if he shows up every night, he could be the best player on the. If we're gonna sit here and say that you are the best player on the planet, I can't say if he does this. Yeah, like I need to know for a fact that you're gonna show, and that doesn't even necessarily mean like playing well every game. That just means like being there, being a dominant presence, walking on the floor and saying like it reminds me too of like I think it was his championship game in college. Like offensively, it wasn't like, you know what I'm saying, he had like 40 or whatever, but like his presence, like just dominating the game and all aspects of it, you just knew like, yo, this kid is the best player on the floor, hands down. And so I think when we enter that same conversation in the league, it's got to be the same exact way. You know that every game, Anthony Davis is going to be the best player on the basketball court. Every single game. It's not if he's healthy or, if he's hitting his threes. No. He's going to be the best regardless. That's just the way I look at it.
I mean, yeah, it's true. But I'm just saying, it's a lot. Bro, I just want to give Anthony Davis his respect because it's been getting crazy. Absolutely. It's been getting crazy. Like I be like on social media, like I listen to people, I hear podcasts, I listen to analysts. They talked about this brother like he is not a champion. Like he's not the first player ever to win an NCAA. I think he won an NCAA title. Did he win he's one of like 3 players ever to win like an NCAA title, a FIBA title, and a championship, like a FIFA World Cup. It's like. Just give this man his respect. Like, stop treating I get it. Like, you may want consistency when it comes to him being this dominant presence all day long, like Giannis. But if you even look at both of their games, their play style is very simple because, like I said, what makes Anthony Davis so unguardable and so rare is his ability to shoot jumpers. His handle ability. And it's just kind of like sometimes he does that too much. But it's just kind of like when he's on and has the whole complete game, it's very unstoppable. He looks like the best player in the world. But when he's off, people are constantly criticizing, well, he needs to finish around him. He needs to be like this. He needs to do this. He needs to play this play style. But it's just like appreciate what he brings to the game because he's rare. Like he's something that's we haven't really seen before.
But you know what, though? I think this part of Anthony Davis's career is needed. Like I think it's going to sound weird, but I think it's a good thing that not everybody is appreciating what he's doing right now. Because similar to like what LeBron had to go through before he won his first chip, it was like, all right, we know he's good, but he doesn't have, the chip just yet. Even though Anthony Davis has the chip, right? He did it with LeBron James and all that. Once he wins another one, post LeBron, when he retires and all that, then all the haters, right? Everything that everyone is saying now, they're not going to have too much to say. Because all it takes is, winning that. That's what I'm saying. Like, it can't always be just like, oh, yeah, Anthony Davis is great. Anthony Davis is good. Anthony Davis has a chip. It can't always be that way. Yeah. I think there has to be some sort of resistance. And I don't like having to say that, but, like, in order for people to really, really appreciate you,
Well, okay. Well,
I'm just saying,
before
though,
early,
like,
that's I'm gonna follow up on that. Before earlier, I was in the podcast. I said Anthony Davis he scored like 38 points to close out the Portland Trailblazers, similar to Kobe. It was actually 47 points to close out a sweep against the Blazers. During that time, that was the most points scored in a series clinching win since Kobe Bryant had 48 in Game 4 of the 2001 Western Conference Finals. So I only bring that up. It's just like people act like when he's had a great team situation around him, that he couldn't be the first option. He did it with the New Orleans Pelicans, but their team for most of those years were really trash. So it's just kind of like when he's with a great team, like with LeBron and other people, it's just kind of like he looks very phenomenal. So it's just kind of like I can use that, for example, for Giannis. Giannis just won a championship, right? You talk about resistance. It needs to be some resistance. When you look at that championship, the level of the way people say that some people are calling that a top 5 finals of all time, a top 10 finals of all time. What level of resistance was the Giannis face? What adversity did he face? So I hate using Giannis because like even like we could go back to like some of these other players. Let's look at like Stephen Curry, like the 2015 finals where he won against LeBron James. It wasn't really any resistance or adversity. So why is it that some players got to have like resistance or adversity compared to other players when we talk about giving them the respect and give them their flowers that they deserve?
I mean, every player has had resistance / hate thrown their way. Like Steph, the fact that he doesn't have a Finals MVP, that's resistance. The fact that LeBron, lost to the Mavericks and let Dirk win his one and only ring, that's resistance. Kevin Durant, the fact that he had to join a 7-3-9 win team to get his first championship, that's resistance. Giannis, the fact that he won during a COVID year, that's resistance. Like every player is going to have some sort of reason and have people say something negative about them. That's just what comes with the territory. I don't think there'll be a player ever in the game that will play in the NBA that won't receive any type of hate or people second guessing their greatness. And again, that just comes with the territory, right? That just comes with the lifestyle. Like it's impossible to be loved by everyone when you have that type of platform. My thing is, it's their job to go out and prove them wrong. And not to say that any of those guys haven't done that. We all know they have. But now it's like, all right, what else can you do? Now, obviously, nobody owes us anything, but it's like, all right, well, if I'm Giannis and people are saying, all right, yo, you just won in the COVID year. You won when everybody was injured. All right, cool. Now, if he wins it this year, what are people going to say?
Yeah.
Right? It really is that simple. Same thing with Kevin Durant. Had he gone to a different team after winning those championships with Golden State and he won by himself, what will people say? Right? So there's always going to be something that people say negatively about players. That's just
it just seems like that is part of the game. You're definitely right. It just seems like some players get the short end of the stick when it comes to that more than others. It's no consistency. Like you,
right.
You're being consistent. You holding everybody to this level. This person, LeBron, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis. That's how it has to be, though. That's why we had this podcast, because it's just like I'm not just gonna we can't just hold this player to one standard and then say like he's at the best player in the world table, or he's close, and this that he's a top 5 player or borderline top 5 player, and then we're gonna say, well, he didn't have this, or this happened, well, his teammates was hurt and stuff like that. Because I look at the playoffs last year, perfect example. It's people that's saying that, Giannis beat Kevin Durant. Like he beat Kevin Durant. But you look at his team, like he had James, like he was supposed to win, but people are, no, that's Kevin Durant. He the best player in the world, right? He's the best player in the world. Well, LeBron don't get that. Stephen Curry don't get that. So it's the same thing. But that's as long as you're consistent with every metric that you use when you're talking about these players. But if you're not consistent when you're talking about Steph and you giving Steph a pass, but you're not giving Anthony Davis a pass, that's not gonna fly with me.
you know me. Nobody get passed. Nobody. You feel
that's
me?
Not gonna fly. Yeah,
that's how it has to be. There is one cure, and probably only one cure to all of this. You know what that cure is? Winning basketball games. Very simple. You win, the conversation changes everything. Like I said, the thing with Trae Young, he won, the conversation changes. Like it ain't that difficult. You win basketball games, already the narrative is going to change.
That's true.
It ain't a very hard concept to understand.
It's not a hard concept, but you can win games and still then people still gonna be like not being consistent sometimes. I'll give you a perfect example.
Let James Harden have 2 championships right now. Do you really think people would say all the shit they saying about him? Absolutely not. If James Harden walked into training camp with looking the way he was, people was talking about that shit, but he had 2 championships and mad MVPs, people wouldn't be saying a word. Hell, some people might support it. Hey, if that's what you gotta do to prepare, hey, rock out, bro. I ain't about to say shit. The hell? You winning. But when you're not winning, all of a sudden it's like, hey man, what we on? Win. Yeah. Win. That's all it comes down to. Win. now the only person, I hate to say this,
Kevin Durant.
Yeah. That's the only person that I feel unfortunate that people will say the Brooklyn Nets could literally go 82-0. And there would be people that would say, well, you know what? They didn't win every game by double digits. That would that's the truth.
It's crazy.
The Brooklyn Nets could literally go 82-0. And crazy. People would still question, like, well, they didn't win every single game by at least 10 points.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. I think another player that's close to, not on the craziness of the people that hold Kevin Durant this level of lack of consistency. Paul George. I think
really.
Yeah, I think Paul, and I'm gonna say Paul George because like I've heard this since the first month of the season. I've heard Rudy Gobert should be in MVP conversations. I've heard, what I'm saying? I've heard Rudy Gobert should be in conversations. I've heard DeMar DeRozan should be in conversations. I've heard certain people's names should be in conversations where I'm just like, God damn. Like, I know that Paul George finished top 3 one year with the Oklahoma City Thunder. But when it comes to like lack of disrespect and lack of consistency, Paul George averaged 27, 8, and 5. 27 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. He shoot like 45 from the field, 36% for the 3-point line. Being the number 1 option with the Los Angeles Clippers, and let me tell you something. They got players on their team that can't put the ball in the basket. Like he's doing everything. I haven't heard once this entire year. You know what? Paul George should be in MVP conversation. And I don't know if it's just like I said, the lack of consistency or just the hatred is just so like people just hate Paul George so much, but it's just kind of like that's a player that I look at like Kevin Durant. It's just like, I don't even know if Paul George can win a championship. I still think people will be criticizing Paul George because like for whatever reason, it's just certain players that people don't necessarily gravitate to and they just hate for whatever reason. I feel like Paul George, I'm just using this MVP conversation talk as they said, how the hell do you have Rudy Gobert? And this is the NBA. This is not like just your typical NBA Central or like Twitter account. Like the NBA had Rudy Gobert at the head, like top 3 at one point of MVP, being the MVP conversation, MVP front runners based on the first 2 weeks of the season. I'm just like, wow. It's crazy to me, bro. It's crazy. I don't know. It's different. It's different. It's different. I don't know.
Hey, you know what though? Hey, one thing I will say about Rudy, he got the bag, didn't he? Got that money, so I ain't mad at him. But
yeah,
when we have conversations about most valuable player, that's
I don't never want to hear his name. Never. It's just
it's funny. Like in a way, and when you receive the most valuable player of the year award, in a way, it's almost like folks are saying like, "Yo, you had the best 365 days from a basketball perspective of anybody else in the entire world.
I think that's a good like metric to start using and thinking of, because I feel like
that's some real shit. Like, yo, 365 days went by on the calendar year, and we are stating that of those days, you were the best player to ever dribble a basketball. And if we are sitting here saying that, I won't throw anybody under the bus, but if that young man were to be mentioned, I mean, did the other, never mind. Anyway, should Paul George be an MVP? That's what it is. Should Paul George be an MVP? Is he in a conversation? Yes. I think so. I think what it is too, outside just people not giving flowers, I think also people don't like to pay attention. Right?
People not watching games. That's what it is. People
don't like to pay attention when guys are playing well, right? People, just for whatever reason want to ignore that. But let a brother shoot, 2 for 12 from the floor, right? Let a brother lose 4 straight games. All of a sudden, Twitter get active. Yeah, Twitter get real active when certain players don't play well. They get active. But going a little 7-game win streak, it ain't 10. You know what I'm saying? Or better yet, my favorite one, they had an easy schedule. Oh, they won though. Yeah. They won. Right? Because if they lost, the energy would be high.
That's only for certain players. I hate to say it, but
facts. These are facts.
Energy, that's what I'm saying. Like the lack of consistency. Like Paul George has been special this whole year. Like but his entire career, not just this year. He's been the number one option. He's been better when he's been the number one option. Like, I hate to say it, like when Kawhi went down, that was a blessing in disguise for Paul George, because Paul George got to go back to doing what he does best, being a number one option, having the offense run through him, having that rhythm all the time, because you know that I'm going to get the ball when I need to get the ball. I'm going to get it to my spots. I'm going to be able to make plays for myself or for others. He was the number one option with OKC, with Russell Westbrook. That he had a top 3 MVP finish towards the year. He was number one option with the Indiana Pacers. He led them to multiple Eastern Conference Finals trips. He was the number one option last year in the playoffs with the Clippers. Once Kawhi went down, he led them to their first ever Western Conference Finals appearance. Like, Paul George deserves his respect. And it's just like, for this year, he's an MVP conversation. He should be. And just for his entire career, Paul George is stamped. I don't care what people say. People may not like it. People may hate it. But it is what it is, because I'm just tired of the lack of consistency, man. I really am, because here's another brother. People have been talking about Russell Westbrook, his up and down all year long, right? It's another brother in the Western Conference I ain't heard a peep of, because it's looking kind of scary.
Who? I mean, you have to say a name. What the hell? You ain't gonna say it's another brother and just go, goes. Who is it?
If you've been watching games, all I'm gonna say is the brother in Portland. I don't know if he wants out. I don't know if he's hurt, but the brother in Portland right now, it's not looking too bright. That city in Portland's not looking too bright. I don't know if he needs a new situation, but like, I don't know if the rule changes are affecting him, but it's just kind of like Damian Lillard is averaging barely under 20. I think he's averaging under 20 points per game right now. I don't know what's going on.
I'm speechless.
But the thing about it is this: unless you pay attention and watch all the teams and watching all these games and try to like love the game of basketball, so you're watching multiple. You're not just watching Lakers. You're not just watching the Bucks. You're not just watching the Knicks and stuff like that. Unless you've been watching games and paying attention, you haven't heard it. You haven't heard of Pete. Ain't nobody talking about Dame.
Man's whispered it.
You ain't heard nothing about what's going on with Dame. Like, only time you hear about Dame is like when he was dropping his album and like, and he came out and talked about like the rule change and stuff like that, how it needs to be changed and stuff like that. But we ain't heard about Dame's struggles.
But you know what though, man? In all seriousness, this is why I say it might be a good thing why certain players receive at least some sort of hate, because when people hate on you, that means they care about you, right? When people hate on you, that means they have high expectations for you. So the thing is, it's like we said with Russ, people feel that way. That brother's he played in the finals. That brother's an MVP. You mentioned respect. Anthony Davis. We consider him a top 5 player. We want more from him. But Damian Lillard, I know what he's capable of. But I mean,
there's no expectations.
Are there expectations? That's just what it is.
That's what
so
it is.
if I'm playing poorly and nobody is saying anything, Even though mentally that might be like, all right, it's a good thing. I can fly under the radar. At the same time, I might be thinking, well, damn, do y'all even think I'm capable of like being an MVP or winning some shit? So again, you never want, people intentionally to talk bad about players. But maybe the reason why people aren't talking about Dame's struggles is because they might not expect that much. So it's kind of like, it's not always a good or bad thing. Just depending on the way you look at it.
Yeah.
That's just
no, that's real. Real. That's real. That's real. That's definitely real. That's real. Like the way and that's what. And the next time somebody says like I say something about Giannis, I have expectations.
Straight up.
I have expectations. I'm looking at that. That is true because I look at certain players like Luka Doncic and Giannis. Like I look at their game and I look at their talent. Like I have certain expectations. I'm holding them like Anthony Davis, but I don't have any expectations for Dame.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Like it may be like individually, I have some for him. But like team wise,
I don't have any individually.
Well, yeah, I expect them to put up some numbers. Straight up, it might come in. I'm not saying they're going to be the number 1 seed or whatever win the whole thing, but like he should be able to score. If there's if there's at least one thing that I feel confident that Damian Lillard can do, it's put the ball in the basket. Everything else, all right, you might say, all right. The defense, he might not have the greatest team, whatever. But shit, scoring? Hey, we got to draw the line somewhere. You might not have all the expectations for him in the world, but shit, he's still an all-star. Yeah. You feel me? He's still, according to some people, is a top 75 player. So there's got to be something that I sit here and say, you know what? He definitely can do that. Everything else, all right, whatever. But shit, he should be able to score at 25.
Out of sight, out of mind. But also like what people say growing up, like coaches, whatever level you played in, youth level, high school, college, like coaches will tell you, like, if I'm not on you, that's when you should be worried.
Yeah.
I guess and to be honest, Dame should be worried because nobody is saying nothing about Dame's struggles. I understand he plays with the Portland Trailblazers, but nobody's really like, we have no expectations for Dame. And it sucks because like he got mentioned on that top 75 list, but it's just like, it's a lot of people that feel like, me personally, like that list that ain't it really. He shouldn't have been on there. There's guys that have done more in the league over Dame. Like I love Dame. I know he from a talent and skills perspective, hell yeah, he's top 50. But it's just kind of like for a resume standpoint, which that list was kind of looking at and peak and stuff. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't got nothing else to say. It really is one of those things. Like, yo, man. And that's the thing too. Like, I think I speak for both of us when I say it. Like, we're rooting for Dame. It ain't a situation where it's like, all right, he just ain't winning. Who cares about him? No, man. Like, I want you to get the hell up out of there. You know what I'm saying? I want you to, play well. I want you to win some championships. I want you, to not let just, finally making all-star games be the best accomplishment that he's had. You know what I'm saying? And look, we go back and forth all the time about, the loyalty and whether or not, you want to stay with the team that drafted you, all that. But shit, win some chips. Like, for real. Like, all that stuff sounds good. Everybody, all the fans, in Portland, on the timeline, whatever, will preach your loyalty. But at the end of the day, when you old as hell and you retired and you look up in your trophy case and there ain't nothing there, that's going to sting.
Oh, you ain't never even been there. That's the thing.
Exact. As much love and support you might have from people now, straight up, they not going to be there, you know what I'm saying, when it's just you in the crib years from now. You're going to look up and look at that trophy case and see that there's nothing there and be like, shit. Even though I was loyal as hell, even though I did all these different things for the city, for the team, for the organization, all that sounds good as hell on paper. But if there ain't no jewelry on the fingers, we got a problem. And let me tell you something. You ain't getting younger.
It ain't even got to be jewelry for me. It's just kind of like.
All right. To me it is.
I don't know. I'm not the whole, because I look at Allen Iverson. Like, Allen Iverson, he been there. Like, he was, if you can you get into the finals, I think. Now, I'm not going to look at Chris Paul. Like, Chris Paul, like, to me, Chris Paul is a top 5 point guard of all time. Yes, it will help his legacy if he won a championship. Of course, everybody knows that. I'm not going to be oblivious to that. But it's just like making it there, like having some moment, having like something. Like, I need something. That's more so like I need something because
You're right.
Because that stuff is situational. All NBA teams, the finals and stuff, that stuff is situational. But at the same time, it's just kind of like if you get mentioned as top 75 players of all time, it's just kind of like, people are gonna look like, well, okay, well, you're mentioning this, but you're not doing this, or we already feel like, yo, we're not really talking about. We have no expectations for you. That's a problem. That's an issue.
And that's a good point, too. And it just kind of thought in my mind, like, the idea of crawl before you walk, right? So, like, the other guys you mentioned, AI, Chris Paul, even though they didn't have one championship, they made the finals. At least they made it there. They might not have won, but, hey, shit, they made it. Dame, we just trying to get you there, right? Like, I skipped the whole step of talking about him getting championships, plural, but shit, my fault. That's on me, but damn. Let me see you. You know what I'm saying? I want to see you playing in June. But first, I want to see you playing in May. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it takes steps to get there, but just whatever it is, you just get the hell out of Portland, man. and I really hate saying that, man. Like, especially too because of all of the conversations people have about like when guys eventually do decide to leave. It's like, well, damn, we preach loyalty, all this and that,
bro,
but
it's
shit, man.
That loyalty thing is
you reach a level, you reach a point where it's like, loyalty, all right, hey, shit.
These organizations ain't loyal to. Let me tell you something. If Dame is, I'm not saying he's still in his prime, but he's struggling right now. I can't be. He's definitely struggling right now. It's probably the rule changes, probably some other things. I don't know, but it's just like he doesn't look like the same Dame right now. Even James Harden, is he's getting back to himself, but you got to give these players time. So I'm not going to be like Dame's going to struggle all year, just like I was with the people that was going off on James Harden saying he's not one of the top scorers. People love the negatives with a player doing bad. They can't wait to hop on certain players. They ain't hopping on Dame like that, of course. But James Harden, they hopping on that. They was eager. They was licking their chops before Damian Lillard. It's okay to be loyal and to have loyalty. But what happens if Dame does struggle for this entire year? And then, he's 32, 33. And this organization that you didn't been loyal to, they looking like, Dame, you got 2 years on your contract, $70 million, $45 million. You're not really playing up to that high level of talent and expectations that we kind of signed you for. We may want to trade you. So you didn't spend all your years being loyal to an organization. Then you hit close to your mid 30s, and it's just kind of like, if you ain't producing, you ain't getting another big contract, or team's gonna be looking to trade you. It's a reason. Like Stephen Curry is 33, but Stephen Curry is still in his damn prime. Like he's still he's still here. But don't be in your mid 30s and you kind of starting to fall off a little bit. Them organizations ain't gonna be as loyal to you as you think. They gonna be looking around like, we may want to get some pieces for this guy, a couple draft picks. Is he not the same no more like he used to be? So that you better be careful when you playing that game.
Man, if that happens to anybody in the league, if it ends up being Damian Lillard of all people, oh my goodness,
I'd
be
shocked.
Emotional for him.
Don't be shocked because you know how them small market teams do, man. Don't.
They wouldn't do that to Dame, though. They wouldn't do that to Dame. Because then.
Let me tell you something. This. Let me tell you something.
They wouldn't do that to him.
Let me tell you something. Pat Riley did it to Dwayne Wade. And Dame ain't done shit compared to Dwayne Wade. So let me tell you something. Don't get it twisted. Pat Riley did it to Dwayne Wade for a couple of millions of dollars that Dwayne Wade wanted. And he went out and gave some money to Hassan Whiteside just to prove a point. Don't get it twisted, bro. If that can happen to Dwayne Wade, top 3 shooting guard of all time, top 20 player of all time, let me tell you something. Please, Dame ain't got nothing coming if he's struggling. And we can end it at that. We can go to the cap or no cap.
Sure. Yeah. Turn me up. What's up? Cap or no cap?
We go to the cap or no cap statement after that. You talked about the Washington Wizards early on. You started the podcast off with them. So cap or no cap, by the end of next month, the Washington Wizards will be closer to a 6 to 8 seed rather than being a top 4 seed.
I'm gonna say cap. You think
they real?
Yeah. I'm gonna say cap. Teams like that always feel like they have something to prove. Like I kind of give them the edge just because of that. They don't, because right now they still don't have any like high expectations, right? Like no one like even no for real. I'm not saying they personally individually don't have high expectations for themselves. I'm saying people like this is one of those situations where like they have a good record and people are still saying like, yo, all right, they're just getting lucky. So they still have, that chip on their shoulder. Like, all right, we got, we still got to win some games here. I don't see them getting fat and happy. I know, again, it's still early on, but, you got one of the best scorers in the league. You surround him with a couple of guys that can produce. They might not be in a situation where they have like a bunch of superstars on their roster, but I mean,
they got one.
Right. They got one that can put up a bunch of points, but I mean, they got pieces. I mean, my eyes are open now. My eyes are open, Wizards fans. You still let go of Russ, but I'm happy I got some success.
You see my eyes? I'm asleep. I'm practically still dead. This first month of the season.
Are you asleep on the Washington Wizards?
Yo, I'm damn near still in the cassock. Look, let me tell you something. By the end of next month, I hope I'm wrong because Bradley Beal from the 314. I want him to be successful. That's my boy, but I don't have any faith in the Washington Wizards to be a top 4 seed at the end of next month. Like come Christmas time when we looking at the teams, that's when we start really getting a good feel of things, and kind of the NBA starts to really like teams start to wake the hell up. Like it's certain teams right now that's kind of like, oh, you need to wake the hell up. Like the Atlanta Hawks, they gonna wake up eventually. Like the New York Knicks, the New York Knicks been up and down. They gonna wake up eventually, I think. So it's just
see that's nothing too. It's like, even though I agree, what I'm saying, I don't want to sit here and like guarantee or predict that like, all right, let me choose a team that's playing bad. I think they're going to improve more than I feel like a team that's already playing well is going to drop off.
That's reality,
it's like
it happens all the time.
Facts. It's reality. It happens all the time. But to me personally, it just like play this. If there was ever a time this season where we give the Wizards their flowers, I think it's probably now. If there's ever a time where we say, all right, you know what, hell, they might have a chance to make the playoffs, it's probably now. So, I'm gonna do that. If we want to have a conversation a month and a half from now, we can have that. But for now, hey,
just know who's here right now.
Hey. Man said, "Give me a pillow, man."
Oh my God, the Washington. Oh my God. It's a good feel-good story, but it's just kind of like it's a good feel-good story. But the Chicago Bulls are really here. Like it's certain like they're really here. Like you look at teams and it's just like like they're really. It's like we had one team that we thought like could be the Phoenix Suns of the Eastern Conference. It was Chicago Bulls. It's just kind of like they're really here. Like you always got that one team that kind of like creeps up. Like some for you, like last year it was the Hawks. Like I was high on the Hawks, but for a lot of people it's the Hawks. Like where did they come from? Like they're really good. So maybe it could be the Washington Wizards. I really, really doubt it. I really, really doubt it. But it could be. You never know. So
facts. Straight play this. Stranger things in the league have happened.
Yeah.
Stranger things in the league have happened.
Yeah, let me tell you something. Once I saw Giannis make 17 free throws in a closeout game, I knew like not to ever consider anything strange in the NBA because anything can happen. The impossible definitely can happen. Like anything can happen. So you may be right. Like it would have been after seeing that in a closeout game. It was like I was glued to the television watching that game because I was like, what the hell is going on? It was like, is this really? It's like almost seeing something that's like you never thought you would ever see before. Like it's like seeing an angel. Like I never thought I would see an angel before. So that's how I watched that performance when Giannis was.
Man's comparing Giannis making 17 free throws to seeing an angel.
Bro, it was like, what the hell is going on? So who knows? Like maybe the Washington Wizards, maybe they're the Phoenix Suns. All I'm saying is like maybe they're the Phoenix Suns of the East. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, man. But, all right, y'all. Yeah, be easy. No pump fakes. We gone.
It's your boy, AK Smith, also known as AK. Make sure you guys go follow No Pump Fakes wherever you get your podcasts.